Life with Sophia was comfortable, predictable, like a well-worn sweater, soft and familiar, but maybe a little too snug in some places, a little threadbare in others. We had the whole suburban package, the two-story house with the manicured lawn, the two-car garage, her sporty convertible, my sensible sedan, and the two cats. Hers, obviously, I'm a dog person, but she's allergic. I was an accountant, not exactly the most exciting profession I know, but it was stable, reliable, the kind of job that paid the bills and allowed for a comfortable life. Sophia, on the other hand, was a rising star in the marketing world, climbing the corporate ladder with the ferocity of a caffeinated cheetah. "Another late night, honey?" I'd ask as she breezed through the door, her phone glued to her ear, a whirlwind of designer handbag and expensive perfume. "Big presentation tomorrow, babe," she'd say, barely making eye contact as she rummaged through the fridge for a bottle of Chardonnay. "Gotta impress the boss." Her boss, Miss Evelyn Vance, CEO of Vance Industries, a woman who seemed to embody everything Sophia aspired to be, powerful, successful, and utterly intimidating. Sophia would regale me with stories of Miss Vance's latest business conquests, her sharp wit, her ruthless ambition, her ability to command a room with a single glance. "She's amazing, Isaac," Sophia would gush, her eyes shining with admiration. "A real force of nature. I wish you could meet her." I'd nod politely, suppressing a yawn. Corporate power plays weren't exactly my idea of a thrilling bedtime story. I preferred dogs, documentaries about the mating habits of Peruvian tree frogs, and a good night's sleep. "You're so steady, Isaac," Sophia would say, her voice a mix of fondness and something else, something I couldn't quite decipher. Reliable, predictable. At first I took it as a compliment, but as time went on, the words started to feel less like praise and more like a criticism. Like I was somehow lacking, not measuring up to her ever-increasing expectations. "Don't you ever want more, Isaac?" she'd ask, her voice laced with a hint of frustration. More excitement, more power. "I'm happy with what we have, Sophia," I'd reply, genuinely content with our comfortable life, our predictable routine. But Sophia, it seemed, was not. The spark in her eyes, the one that had once been reserved for me, now seemed to ignite only when she talked about her work, her ambitions, her powerful boss. And as I watched her, the woman I loved, drift further and further away, a nagging feeling of unease began to grow within me. A feeling that the comfortable life we had built together was about to unravel, leaving me stranded in a world that no longer recognized me. It was a Wednesday, I think. Or maybe a Thursday. The days, once comfortably predictable, had started to blur together in a haze of Sophia's late nights and my growing sense of unease. She came home later than usual that night, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed. "Sophia," I said, my voice laced with concern. "What's wrong?" She took a deep breath, her shoulders slumping as if a weight had been placed upon them. "Isaac," she began, her voice trembling, "we need to talk." Oh, those dreaded words. The harbingers of doom, the universal signal for an impending emotional earthquake. "Okay," I said, my voice a little too high-pitched, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs. "What's up?" She looked at me then, her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and something else, something colder, harder, something that made my stomach churn. "I'm leaving you, Isaac," she said, the words blunt, brutal, like a knife twisting in my gut. "Leaving?" I echoed, my voice a hollow whisper. "But why?" "I've fallen in love with someone else," she said, her voice flat, devoid of emotion. The words hit me like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. "Someone else?" I repeated, my mind reeling, trying to process the impossible. "But who?" "Melissa," she said, her voice barely a whisper. Melissa, her secretary, the quiet, efficient woman who always seemed to be lurking in the background, a shadow in Sophia's otherwise dazzling world. "Melissa?" I repeated, my voice cracking, the absurdity of the situation hitting me with full force. "But she's..." She's everything you're not, Isaac, Sophia interrupted, her voice hardening, the coldness in her eyes sending a shiver down my spine. She's exciting, ambitious, passionate. She makes me feel alive. And I don't? I asked, the words a pathetic plea for a love that was already gone. You're safe, Isaac, she said, her voice laced with a disdain that made my blood run cold. Predictable, boring, you're powerless. Powerless. The word hung in the air, a cruel indictment of my ordinary life, my steady job, my lack of ambition. It was the ultimate insult, the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. I need more, Isaac, she continued, her voice devoid of any remorse. I need excitement, passion, power, and Melissa, she can give me that. She stood up then, her movements decisive, her eyes fixed on some distant horizon that no longer included me. I'm sorry, Isaac, she said, the words empty, meaningless. But this is goodbye. And with that, she walked out of the door, leaving me standing there amidst the wreckage of our life together, the echoes of her cruel words ringing in my ears. My world, once so comfortable, so predictable, had crumbled around me, leaving me lost, alone, and utterly powerless. The house felt suffocating. Every corner held a memory, every object a reminder of the life Sophia and I had built together. Or rather, the life I thought we had built together. The betrayal was a double blow. Not only had she left, but she'd left for Melissa. Melissa, her quiet, unassuming secretary. It was baffling, humiliating, infuriating. Powerless, Sophia had said. The word echoed in my head, a cruel mantra that fueled my growing despair. Was I powerless? Was that all I was to her? A boring, predictable accountant devoid of passion, ambition, and, well, power? I needed to escape, to get away from the suffocating memories, the whispers of the neighbors, the pitying glances of friends. I packed a backpack with a few essentials, clothes, toiletries, a first aid kit, and a dog-eared copy of Walden, ironic considering my current predicament, and headed for the mountains. The wilderness was a stark contrast to the manicured lawns and predictable streets of suburbia. The air was crisp, the silence profound, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant cry of a hawk. I hiked for hours, the physical exertion a welcome distraction from the turmoil in my mind. But the questions lingered, gnawing at me like a persistent toothache. Why? Why Melissa? Why had Sophia thrown away our life together for someone so unexpected? Was it really about power? About excitement? Or was there something more? Something I had missed? Something I had failed to provide? Powerless, I muttered to myself, the word catching on the wind, echoing through the trees. Boring. Predictable. Was that all I was? Had I become so comfortable in my ordinary life, my steady job, my predictable routine, that I had lost sight of myself, of my own desires, my own ambitions, my own potential? The isolation of the wilderness was both terrifying and liberating. Terrifying because it forced me to confront my own demons, my own insecurities, my own failures. But liberating because it stripped away the pretense, the expectations, the societal pressures that had shaped my life for so long. I spent my days hiking, exploring, and simply being. I slept under the stars, cooked over an open fire, and read Walden by the light of my headlamp, the words of Thoreau resonating with a newfound clarity. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. 1. Had I truly lived? Or had I simply existed, a shadow of my true self, content with the comfortable mediocrity of my ordinary life? The wilderness didn't provide any easy answers, but it did offer a space for reflection, for introspection, for a reconnection with the primal essence of my being. And as I sat by the fire, the flames dancing in the darkness, a new resolve began to grow within me. a resolve to understand, to change, to reclaim the power I had unknowingly surrendered. I'd been wandering for days, my mind a swirling vortex of grief, confusion, and a strange, gnawing hunger for something. I wasn't even sure what. Answers, maybe? A sense of purpose? Or perhaps just a way to numb the pain. The trail had led me deeper into the mountains, the towering pines casting long, eerie shadows in the fading light. I stumbled upon a small clearing, a wisp of smoke curling upwards from a hidden fire. An old woman sat beside it, her face etched with wrinkles, her eyes surprisingly sharp, fixed on me. She was unsettling, not in a threatening way, but in a way that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. She wore simple, homespun clothes, and her long gray hair was braided with feathers and beads. She looked like she belonged in a fairy tale, or maybe a nightmare. "Lost, are you?" she said, her voice surprisingly strong, a low rumble that seemed to echo through the clearing. I nodded, unable to speak, my throat tight with a mixture of exhaustion and unease. "Life has dealt you a harsh blow," she said, her eyes seeming to pierce through me, seeing the pain, the betrayal, the emptiness that had consumed me. I swallowed hard. "My wife, she left me," I managed to say, the words sounding pathetic even to my own ears. "For someone else." "For someone more," the old woman finished, her eyes filled with a knowing sadness. I looked at her, my skepticism warring with a desperate hope. You know?" She nodded. "I see things, Isaac. Things that are hidden from others." My breath hitched. How did she know my name? I hadn't told her. "I can offer you a chance," she said, her voice low and mesmerizing. "A chance to be reborn, to become more." Reborn? The word sounded absurd, fantastical, like something out of a movie. But in my current state of despair, even the impossible seemed possible. What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "A ritual," she said, gesturing towards the fire. "An ancient rite that will reshape you, make you stronger, sharper, more powerful." I stared at her, my mind reeling. This was crazy. This was insane. This was exactly what I needed. "What do I have to do?" I asked, my voice filled with a desperate urgency. The old woman smiled, a slow, knowing smile that sent a shiver down my spine. "The price is steep, Isaac," she said, her eyes gleaming in the firelight. "But the rewards are beyond your wildest dreams." I didn't hesitate. I had nothing left to lose. My life as I knew it was over. And the chance, however slim, however fantastical, to become more, to reclaim the power that had been so cruelly denied me, it was too tempting to resist. "I accept," I said, my voice firm, resolute. "Tell me what I have to do." The ritual was intense, to say the least. The old woman, the seer, had me gather herbs and strange roots under the moonlight, chanting words I didn't understand, their sounds both ancient and unsettling. She brewed a concoction that smelled like a mix of forest floor and burnt sugar, the steam swirling around me like a spectral embrace. "Drink," she commanded, her voice echoing through the clearing. I hesitated for a moment, the concoction looking less like a magic potion and more like something that would give me a nasty case of indigestion. But I'd come this far, hadn't I? I closed my eyes, held my breath, and swallowed the bitter liquid. It felt like fire in my veins, a burning sensation that spread through my body, making my muscles twitch, my skin prickle. I gasped, my vision blurring, the world around me dissolving into a kaleidoscope of colors and swirling shapes. The old woman's chanting intensified, her voice a hypnotic rhythm that seemed to synchronize with the pounding of my heart. I felt a strange energy surging through me, a power I had never known, a force that both terrified and exhilarated me. Then everything went black. When I woke up, the sun was rising, casting a golden glow over the clearing. I sat up, feeling different, lighter, stronger, more alive. My senses were heightened, the colors of the forest more vibrant, the sounds of the birdsong more distinct. I could smell the damp earth, the pine needles, the faintest hint of smoke from the dying embers of the fire. I looked at my hands, turning them over, marveling at their strength, their newfound agility. I stood up, feeling a surge of energy, a power that thrummed through my veins. I felt invincible. What, what have you done to me? I asked, my voice echoing through the clearing, stronger, deeper than I remembered. The old woman smiled, her eyes twinkling with amusement. I have awakened what was always within you, Isaac, she said, her voice a gentle whisper. The power, the potential, the more. I looked at her, my mind still reeling from the transformation. But how? The ritual, she explained. It unlocked your true self, the self that was hidden beneath the layers of ordinary life, the self that was suppressed. I took a deep breath, testing my new abilities, feeling the energy coursing through me. I could see the subtle flicker of emotions in the old woman's eyes, the truth hidden beneath her calm facade. I could sense the power emanating from her, the ancient wisdom that resonated with my newfound awareness. You are more than just a man now, Isaac, she said, her voice filled with a knowing certainty. You are a force to be reckoned with. I looked at her, then at the world around me, the forest alive with a vibrancy I had never noticed before. I felt a surge of gratitude, of excitement, of power. The old Isaac, the boring, predictable accountant, was gone. In his place was a new Isaac, a man reborn, a man with abilities beyond his wildest dreams. And as I turned to leave the clearing, a new purpose burning in my heart, I knew that this was just the beginning of my journey. The journey to reclaim my life, to rewrite my story, to become the man I was always meant to be. The city hit me like a blast of heat, a cacophony of noise and movement after the quiet solitude of the mountains. I walked with a newfound confidence, my senses heightened, my mind sharper than ever before. I could feel the pulse of the city, the thrum of ambition, the undercurrent of desperation. It was intoxicating. My first stop was a tailor. The old Isaac, the one who shopped at discount stores and considered a dress shirt, anything without a coffee stain, was gone. This new Isaac, with his enhanced physique and aura of power, deserved a wardrobe to match. I walked out with a suit that felt like a second skin, a power suit in every sense of the word. Then it was time to play the game. I chose a high-powered investment firm, the kind of place where money talked and ambition roared. I walked into the lobby, my confidence radiating outwards, my eyes meeting every gaze with an unwavering intensity. The receptionist, normally unflappable, practically melted under my gaze. "I'm here to see Mr. Caldwell," I said, my voice smooth, commanding. "Tell him Isaac Thorne is here." The name, my name, sounded different now. It held weight, authority, a hint of something dangerous. Mr. Caldwell, a man whose reputation preceded him, ruthless, shrewd, and notoriously difficult to impress, greeted me with a guarded skepticism. "Mr. Thorne," he said, his eyes assessing, "you have quite the presence." "I aim to make an impression, Mr. Caldwell," I replied, a confident smirk playing on my lips. The meeting was a dance, a carefully orchestrated performance. I could see through Caldwell's bluster, his attempts to intimidate, his carefully concealed insecurities. I countered his every move, my words precise, my arguments irrefutable, my charm irresistible. And then I used it. The power, the ability the seer had awakened within me. I subtly amplified Caldwell's greed, his ambition, his desire to be associated with someone like me, someone who exuded power, success, and an almost supernatural charisma. By the end of the meeting, Caldwell was practically salivating. "Mr. Thorne," he said, his voice eager, "I believe we can make this work. A partnership. Mutually beneficial, of course." Mutually beneficial, I echoed, a knowing glint in my eyes. The deal was signed, sealed, and delivered within a week. It was the first of many. I moved through the corporate world like a shark in a feeding frenzy, my enhanced abilities giving me an edge in every negotiation, every deal, every power play. I could sense the weaknesses of my opponents, their fears, their desires, their hidden vulnerabilities. I could manipulate their emotions, subtly amplifying their greed, their ambition, their need to be associated with someone like me, someone who seemed to possess an almost supernatural ability to succeed. "You have a gift, Mr. Thorne," one CEO said to me after a particularly ruthless takeover, his eyes wide with a mixture of admiration and fear. "A sixth sense for business." "Intuition," I replied, a cryptic smile playing on my lips. The money flowed in, the power accumulated, the influence expanded. I built a network of contacts, a web of alliances that stretched across industries, across continents. My name, once synonymous with boring accountant, was now whispered in the corridors of power, a symbol of success, of ambition, of a force that could not be denied. And as I stood at the top of my newly acquired skyscraper, overlooking the city that was now my playground, I couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. This was the power Sophia had craved, the excitement she had sought, the life she had denied me. And now, it was all mine. But there was something else, too. A darkness that lingered beneath the surface. A ruthlessness that had been awakened alongside my newfound abilities. The old Isaac, the one who valued kindness and empathy, was still there, but he was now sharing space with a new Isaac, a man who was willing to do whatever it took to win, to dominate, to achieve his goals. And as I looked out at the city lights, a predatory glint in my eyes, I knew that this was just the beginning. The game was afoot, and I, Isaac Thorne, the reborn billionaire, was ready to play. The penthouse apartment was just the beginning, a symbol, really, of the new life I was building. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, a private elevator, a wine cellar that could make a sommelier weep with joy. It was the kind of place that screamed success, the kind of place that attracted the kind of people I needed in my corner. And they came. CEOs, politicians, celebrities, they all wanted a piece of the Isaac Thorne mystique. The mysterious billionaire who seemed to have appeared out of thin air, the man with the Midas touch, the guy who could turn any deal into gold. Mr. Thorne, a renowned venture capitalist, gushed at a charity gala, his hand clasped tightly around mine. "Your reputation precedes you. The way you orchestrated that Henderson acquisition? Brilliant, simply brilliant." "It was a matter of strategy," I said, my voice a smooth blend of confidence and mystery. "And timing." Of course, I didn't mention the other part. The part where I used my enhanced abilities to subtly nudge Henderson's CEO towards a more agreeable position. A little amplification of his fear of failure, a gentle nudge towards his desire for a comfortable retirement. It was all about understanding human nature, their motivations, their hidden desires. And thanks to the seer's ritual, I had an uncanny ability to read people like open books. The whispers followed me wherever I went. "He's got a sixth sense," they'd say. "An intuition for business that borders on the supernatural?" They weren't wrong. I could sense the shifts in the market, the undercurrents of power, the subtle cues that hinted at opportunity or danger. It was like having a cheat code for the corporate world. But it wasn't just about the money or the power or the thrill of the deal. It was about the game itself, the chessboard of the corporate world, the strategic maneuvering, the calculated risks, the satisfaction of outmaneuvering my opponents. And with my enhanced abilities, I was playing with a set of pieces no one else even knew existed. "Thorne," a rival billionaire growled at me during a tense negotiation, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. "You seem awfully confident, almost arrogant." Confidence is an asset, Mr. Blackwood, I replied, my voice calm, unruffled. Arrogance is a liability. I assure you I know the difference. He didn't believe me, of course. He couldn't. He couldn't see the way I was reading him, analyzing his micro-expressions, sensing the fear beneath his bluster. He didn't know that I was already 10 steps ahead, anticipating his every move, manipulating the situation to my advantage. The deal, naturally, went my way. They all did. I was building an empire, a network of influence that stretched across industries, across continents. And the more I won, the more powerful I became, the more people flocked to my side, eager to bask in my reflected glory, to be associated with the man who seemed to possess the Midas touch. But amidst the whirlwind of success, the constant stream of meetings, negotiations, and power plays, a part of me remained detached, observant. I watched the people around me, their greed, their ambition, their relentless pursuit of power, and I couldn't help but wonder, was this what I truly wanted? Was this the life I'd been reborn to live? The old Isaac, the one who valued kindness, empathy, and a good documentary about Peruvian tree frogs was still there, somewhere beneath the surface. But he was now sharing space with a new Isaac, a man who was comfortable with power, who understood the rules of the game, and who was willing to play them to win. And as I looked out at the city lights from my penthouse window, a glass of vintage scotch in my hand, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of something. Not regret, not exactly. More like a sense of anticipation. The game was far from over, and I, Isaac Thorne, the mysterious billionaire, was just getting started. The whispers about me reached even Sophia, I knew. It was inevitable. The gossip columns, the business journals, the social media feeds, they were all buzzing with the name Isaac Thorne. The mysterious billionaire, the corporate shark, the man who seemed to have it all. Sophia, now a senior marketing executive at Vance Industries, was privy to these whispers. And more. She had a front-row seat to the fascination, the intrigue, the almost obsessive admiration that her boss, Miss Evelyn Vance, had developed for the enigmatic Isaac Thorne. "He's incredible, Sophia," Miss Vance would say, her voice a mix of awe and something else, something that sounded suspiciously like infatuation. "The way he handles those negotiations, the way he commands a room, he's a force of nature." Sophia would nod politely, her mind racing. Thorne. The name was vaguely familiar, a ghost from a past she had tried to bury, but she couldn't place it. This Thorne, this powerful, charismatic billionaire, was a world away from the boring accountant she had left behind. "I'd love to meet him," Miss Vance continued, her eyes gleaming with a predatory glint. "Get to know him. Perhaps even—" She trailed off, a suggestive smile playing on her lips. Sophia felt a strange pang in her chest, a mix of curiosity and something else, something akin to jealousy. This Thorne, this man who had captured her boss's attention, intrigued her. She found herself scouring the internet for information about him, studying his photos, analyzing his interviews, trying to decipher the enigma that was Thorne. "He's quite the mystery, isn't he?" she remarked to Miss Vance one day, trying to sound casual. "Indeed," Miss Vance replied, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "But I have a feeling I'll unravel him soon enough." Sophia felt a shiver run down her spine. There was something about the way Miss Vance said those words, a possessiveness, a determination that made her uneasy. The more she learned about Thorne, the more fascinated she became. His business acumen, his strategic brilliance, his undeniable charisma. He was everything she had ever wanted in a man, everything she had mistakenly believed she could find in Melissa. The irony was not lost on me. The woman who had dismissed me as powerless and boring was now captivated by the very qualities she had once scorned. The woman who had left me for a fleeting illusion of excitement was now yearning for the stability, the strength, the power that I embodied. I watched her from afar, my enhanced senses allowing me to monitor her every move, her every thought, her every emotion. I saw the curiosity in her eyes, the growing fascination, the undeniable attraction that she was fighting to suppress. And I smiled. The game was afoot, and Sophia, my dear ex-wife, was playing right into my hands. I had no intention of revealing my true identity just yet. Not until the time was right. Not until she was completely and utterly captivated by the man she thought was a stranger. The anticipation was delicious. The thought of her falling for me, the man she had rejected, the man she had deemed unworthy of her ambition, was a sweet revenge, a vindication of the years I had spent in her shadow. And as I orchestrated events, subtly manipulating situations to bring her closer to my orbit, I couldn't help but feel a surge of power, a thrill of the game. Sophia, my dear Sophia, was about to learn a valuable lesson. A lesson about the true meaning of power, the allure of mystery, and the consequences of underestimating the man she thought she knew. The game was on, and I was playing it with a relish I hadn't known I possessed. Sophia's fascination with me was growing. I could feel it, sense it, see it in the way her eyes lingered on my photos in business magazines, the way she subtly steered conversations towards me, the way her breath hitched when Miss Vance mentioned my name. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. I wanted more. I wanted her to be completely, utterly captivated. And for that, I needed to play my cards carefully. Miss Vance, my willing pawn in this elaborate game of manipulation, was proving to be surprisingly easy to influence. Her ambition, her desire for power, her insatiable hunger for recognition. They were all amplified by my presence, my aura, my subtle nudges in the right direction. "Thorne," she'd purr, her voice laced with admiration. "He's everything I admire in a man. Driven, ambitious, powerful, he's a true alpha." Sophia, I noticed, would wince slightly at these pronouncements, a flicker of something jealousy crossing her face. It was a small thing, almost imperceptible, but I saw it, and it fueled my amusement. I orchestrated chance encounters with Miss Vance. A charity gala here, a business conference there, a private dinner at a five-star restaurant. Each encounter was carefully planned, each interaction meticulously crafted to enhance her perception of me, to solidify my position as the most desirable man in the room. "Miss Vance," I'd say, my voice smooth, charming, "it's always a pleasure. Your insights on the market are remarkable." "Mr. Thorne," she'd reply, her eyes sparkling, "the pleasure is all mine. Your presence is quite captivating." And it was. I could feel the pull of my influence on her, the subtle shift in her emotions, the growing desire to be closer to me, to possess me, to claim me as her own. Sophia, meanwhile, watched from the sidelines, her curiosity growing, her attraction simmering beneath the surface. She was so close, yet so far. She didn't know it was me, the man she had scorned, the man she had deemed unworthy of her ambition, who was orchestrating this elaborate dance of seduction. The irony was delicious. The woman who had left me for being powerless was now being manipulated by the very power she had so carelessly dismissed. "He's fascinating," Sophia remarked to Miss Vance one day, her voice a mix of admiration and something else, something that sounded suspiciously like longing. "Isn't he?" Miss Vance purred, her eyes gleaming. "He's irresistible." I could practically feel Sophia's gaze on me, her curiosity burning like a flame. She was so close, so tantalizingly close, to discovering the truth. But I wasn't ready to reveal myself just yet. Not until I had her exactly where I wanted her. I continued to play my game, subtly amplifying Miss Vance's attraction to me, using my abilities to manipulate her emotions, her desires, her perceptions. I was weaving a web of intrigue, a tapestry of deception, with Sophia as my unwitting audience. The thought of her reaction when she finally realized who I was, the shock, the disbelief, the dawning realization of what she had lost, it was a powerful motivator. It fueled my ambition, my ruthlessness, my desire for, well, I wasn't sure what. Revenge? Validation? or perhaps just the satisfaction of knowing that I'd won the game. And as I watched Sophia, her fascination growing with each passing day, I couldn't help but smile. The game was far from over. In fact, it was just getting interesting. The curiosity was eating Sophia alive. Every time Miss Vance gushed about Isaac Thorne, every time his name appeared in the news, every time she saw his face on a magazine cover, the urge to know more, to meet him, to understand the enigma that was Isaac Thorne, grew stronger. I need to meet him, she muttered to herself, staring at his photo in a business journal, her fingers tracing the sharp lines of his jaw, the intensity in his eyes. I need to know who he is. An idea began to form in her mind, a plan that was both audacious and reckless. She knew Isaac Thorne was a frequent visitor to a particular high-end art gallery, a place where the city's elite gathered to admire and acquire the latest masterpieces. It was a long shot, but it was her only shot. She dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that was both elegant and subtly seductive, the kind of outfit that would catch the eye of a man like Isaac Thorne. She arrived at the gallery early, her heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. And then she saw him, standing across the room, surrounded by a group of admirers, his presence radiating power and charisma. He was even more striking in person, his features sharper, his eyes more intense, his aura more captivating. Sophia took a deep breath, steeling her nerves. She walked towards him, her movements deliberate, her gaze fixed on his. As she approached, the crowd seemed to part, as if acknowledging her presence, her own aura subtly amplified by my influence. "Mr. Thorne," she said, her voice smooth, confident. "May I introduce myself? I'm Sophia." I turned to face her, a polite smile playing on my lips. Our eyes met, and a shockwave of recognition jolted through her. The smile, the eyes, the presence. It couldn't be, but it was. "Isaac?" she gasped, her voice barely a whisper. I raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. "Sophia? What a surprise. But you're—" she stammered, her mind reeling, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place with a sickening clarity. "You're Isaac Thorne?" "Indeed," I said, my smile widening, enjoying her confusion, her disbelief. "But how?" she asked, her voice laced with confusion. "You were an accountant." "People change, Sophia," I said, my voice laced with a hint of amusement. "Life has a way of reshaping us." She stared at me, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock, disbelief, and a dawning realization of what she had lost. The man she had dismissed as boring and powerless was now the man everyone wanted, the man who exuded power, charisma, and an undeniable magnetism. I don't understand," she said, her voice trembling. "It's quite simple, Sophia," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "You left me for someone. More. And now, I am more." The truth hit her like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of her. She had been so blind, so focused on her own ambition, her own desires, that she had failed to see the potential, the power, the more that had always been within me. "But why?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Why what, Sophia?" I asked, tilting my head, enjoying her confusion. "Why didn't you tell me?" she said, her eyes filled with a mixture of regret and accusation. "Tell you what?" I asked, feigning innocence. "That I was capable of more? That I had the potential to become the man you always wanted? You wouldn't have listened, Sophia. You were too busy chasing your own dreams, your own ambitions." Her face crumpled, the carefully constructed mask of confidence shattering completely. She saw it now, the truth she had been blind to for so long. She had made a mistake, a colossal mistake. She had traded a genuine connection, a true partnership, for a fleeting illusion of power and excitement. And in the process, she had lost the man she truly loved, the man who had become everything she had ever desired. I, I'm sorry, Isaac, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Sorry, I asked, my voice hardening. Sorry for what, Sophia? For leaving me, for dismissing me, for underestimating me? She looked at me, her eyes filled with a pain that mirrored my own. For all of it, she said, her voice barely audible. I stared at her for a moment, the years of hurt, of betrayal, of resentment swirling within me. But then, I saw something else in her eyes, a genuine remorse, a deep regret, a flicker of the love that had once bound us together. And in that moment, I knew that I had won. Not just the game, but the war. I had achieved the power, the success, the recognition that Sophia had craved. But more importantly, I had achieved something she could never have. The self-awareness, the inner strength, the true power that came from knowing who I was, what I wanted, and what I was capable of. It's too late, Sophia, I said, my voice gentle but firm. The past is the past, and now, we both have to live with the consequences of our choices. The ballroom buzzed with the kind of energy only money and power could generate. Crystal chandeliers glittered, champagne flowed freely, and the air crackled with the hushed whispers of the city's elite. Tonight was my night. Not just because I, Isaac Thorne, was the guest of honor, but because tonight, I was going to deliver the final blow. Evelyn Vance, CEO extraordinaire, stood beside me, her hand clasped possessively in mine. She was radiant, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of triumph and something else, something that looked suspiciously like love, or at least a very convincing imitation of it. Darling, she purred, her voice a silken whisper meant only for my ears. Tonight, we make it official. I smiled, a slow, deliberate curve of my lips that didn't quite reach my eyes. Indeed we do, Evelyn. The crowd hushed as Evelyn took the stage, a hush that spoke volumes about her power, her influence, her ability to command attention with a single glance. She tapped the microphone, a practiced gesture that exuded confidence and control. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, her voice amplified through the speakers. I have an important announcement to make. She paused, letting the anticipation build, her eyes scanning the crowd, finally settling on a figure standing near the back. A figure whose face was pale, whose eyes were wide with a mixture of shock and despair. Sophia. As many of you know, Evelyn continued, her voice laced with a barely concealed triumph, I have recently found happiness with a truly remarkable man. She turned to me, her eyes locking with mine, a possessive glint in their depths. Isaac Thorne, she said, her voice filled with emotion. A man of vision, of strength, of undeniable power. She reached out, her hand caressing my cheek, a gesture that was meant to convey intimacy, but felt strangely cold, calculated. Tonight, she announced, her voice ringing through the ballroom, I am overjoyed to announce our engagement. The crowd erupted in applause, a wave of congratulations and well wishes washing over us. I smiled, playing my part, raising my hand in acknowledgement, my eyes never leaving Sophia. She stood frozen, her face a mask of devastation, her eyes fixed on me, or rather, on the woman who now claimed me as hers, the woman she admired, the woman she emulated, the woman she had unwittingly helped me seduce. The irony was exquisite. The woman who had left me for being powerless was now watching me, the man she had rejected, the man she had deemed unworthy of her ambition, become the fiancé of the most powerful woman in the city. I could feel Sophia's pain, her regret, her despair. It was a tangible thing, a wave of negative emotion that washed over me, fueling my own satisfaction, my own twisted sense of triumph. Evelyn, oblivious to the silent drama unfolding in the back of the room, continued her speech, extolling my virtues, my accomplishments, my undeniable power. I stood beside her, a silent statue, my eyes fixed on Sophia, watching her crumble, watching her world collapse around her. This was the final blow, the culmination of my carefully orchestrated plan. The woman who had once mocked my lack of power was now witnessing the full extent of the power she had so carelessly dismissed. The woman who had traded me in for a fleeting illusion of excitement was now facing the consequences of her choices, the bitter reality of her loss. The engagement ring, a dazzling display of wealth and extravagance, felt heavy on my finger, a symbol of my victory, my triumph, my revenge. But as I looked at Sophia, her face etched with pain, her eyes filled with a despair that mirrored my own past suffering, a flicker of something stirred within me. Not pity, not exactly, more like a sense of closure. The past, with all its hurt and betrayal, was finally behind me. I had moved on, I had evolved, I had become the man I was always meant to be. And Sophia, well, she was left to grapple with the consequences of her choices, the ghost of what might have been haunting her every step. The applause died down, the crowd's attention shifting to the elaborate buffet and the free-flowing champagne. Evelyn, her hand still clasped in mine, leaned in, her lips brushing my cheek. "We did it, darling," she whispered, her voice laced with triumph. "We're the power couple now." I smiled, a genuine smile this time, a smile that reflected the satisfaction of a game well played, a victory hard won. "Indeed we are, Evelyn," I said, my voice filled with a confidence that was both earned and unsettling. And as I looked at Sophia, her figure receding into the crowd, her shoulders slumped with defeat, I knew that this was just the beginning. The world was my oyster, the game was afoot, and I, Isaac Thorne, the reborn billionaire, was ready to play.